Hey, I'm Sarah Smith, family doctor, clinical day advisor, and the chatting coach. Welcome back to Sustainable Clinical Medicine podcast, where we're going to be interviewing peers or world experts who can help us think about our clinical day in a way that is more sustainable and create time for our lives outside of medicine. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening in to the podcast this year. I'm really encouraged by the reviews I've been reading about the podcast, and I'm interested in hearing your stories of transformation as you're hearing from us and our amazing guests that we bring into the podcast. Have a wonderful holiday season and a very happy new year, and I will see you there. Hi, everybody. Today we have a real gem for you. I have a brain's trust of my most favorite people. These are our assistant coaches who come into the Charting Champions and Smarter Charting programs to help our members with their pursuit of creating better clinical days for themselves and to try and stop working outside of work hours. So I am so pleased we could all come together in this space at the same time to talk about the things that we love to see physicians and clinicians conquering about their clinical day and a bit about their story so you get to meet them ahead of time. So welcome, everybody. Jackie, I'm going to call on you first, if that's all right, to introduce yourself. Tell us why you're in this work and what you love to see. So go ahead.
Okay, my name's Jackie Holm-Jhass. I'm a family physician. And why I'm in this work, basically, I've been at the bottom of it and gotten to the point after many years of practice and loving it, basically hating it and questioning, what am I doing here? This isn't sustainable. I can't go on. Thinking, I had to get out. And that's kind of where I heard about coaching. And yeah, then ended up getting coaching and changed the way I think about things, the way I see things. And coming on the other side of that, love medicine more than ever. And yeah, don't want to do coaching to get away from medicine, but rather to keep others from leaving something that they are amazing at and could still love again. So yeah, that's kind of that. And yeah, what I love about it is it's just like you just seeing people find that the joy or the purpose in medicine again, and seeing people find the ability to actually go spend time with their families or friends or do things after work and all these kind of things. And that I also love that even with myself, like I go through waves. Like, do I do everything right all the time? Heck no. Do I still fall into the same patterns? Of course, but it feels completely different because the way I look at it and I'm accepting of that. So I like to see, I also love when people come and say like, well, I stopped doing everything or I'm not doing anything, because that just gives us a chance to kind of say, okay, great. We know what doesn't work. Let's figure it out. And to see them kind of on the other side of that, I guess there's a big old run on answer.
Beautiful. I love it. No, that's really helpful. Thank you. Very good. We can hear your passion and joy. So that's wonderful. Milene, welcome.
Thank you. Hey. I'm Milene Argo. I'm an internist. I'm in Athens, Georgia. And so what keeps me coaching? I think when I found coaching, I was burned out and I didn't know it. And my 40-hour-a-week job was taking up about 65 hours. And I was able to, through coaching, to make some changes that gave me back some time. And I was able to reconnect with all the different parts of me. And I really love seeing physicians leave medicine for a part of each day and have them really be able to connect with their family, their hobbies, their downtime, the other things that make them human. And it feels like such a privilege to walk that journey with them. And just to be with them, to have them sort of figure out what's not working and what changes can they make within medicine in order to enjoy this practice and all the hard work and the determination and the drive that they've had. And if I could give that back to just one person, that just feels so meaningful.
Beautiful. Love that. Thank you. And Noelle, hello and welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. So what brought me to this work? was probably almost a level of despair after 15 years or so of like the stamina to do it the same way harder. Like day after day, I was so convinced. And looking back, it's kind of fantastic to have that amount of stamina day after day, like really thinking you can nail your clinical day and it's going to be different today. So what brought me what was finally being exhausted with my own trying and not creating a different result, and then just surfing for solutions. And honestly, when I first ran across coaching, it was like a shingle hanging in the town I like to jog in. And I remember that like that hefty laugh where you almost like blow out your nose. I was like, great coaching. This is one more thing we're going to contend with when our patients come in. And then shortly thereafter, when I was Googling happy thoughts, which I tend to do before I start my day when I was in more despair, and something popped up on my search about how to feel better, and it was linked to a self-coaching program. So what brought me was like 15 years of intense enthusiasm, and I was getting the same result and no nights and no weekends of my own. What I enjoy about the program and my own life, I think that twofold. I'm not going to pretend it's all amazing. I think we struggle well together. And the other thing that I believe most of us don't do is celebrating at all. And there's increasing evidence that that's really important, meaning not only do we feel a little better, it completely changes our results. And so I think I'm a little unwilling or reluctant to practice things that I'm not convinced are going to work. And so I've spent enough time over the last 6 years in the evidence of positive psychology and the evidence of coaching and the fMRI research, and that I really believe in the tools that Sarah teaches and that she brings to the program. And we all trained similarly and then have gone on to do other things. But again, like, what keeps me there? Like, I think it is fantastic to struggle well together. That's actually a practice, as opposed to the isolation. And then we expand our possibilities so much more as a group. So that's what I have.
Yeah, that's so good. I agree. The expanding possibilities when we hear others working through challenges and coming up with solutions, and that can just trigger you to think, oh, that's a good idea. I could perhaps put that in practice if I did a little tweaking of it. And we just get more and more capacity for change as we hear others starting that challenge of coming up against challenges and working through them. So love those answers. Thank you, ladies. Okay. What is the true cost of working in the evenings and weekends? Why should we consider making a change in our clinical day? Because it's not for everybody. Not everybody. Some people love working in the evenings and the weekends, and they have no desire to do anything else, and they're very happy managing inboxes after hours. But what do you think that true cost is? And you've all had that personal experience of this, like the listeners know I have as well. But what do you think that true cost is? What are you seeing on the coalface when you're looking after physicians and clinicians who are coming in to the program, those newbies? What does it cost them? Jackie, do you want to start?
Like, do I just go first? Okay. I kind of want to say your soul because you feel like your soul's being sucked out of you. But I mean, let's, I'll maybe not go there. But it just costs you like the rest of life, basically. Like you're not like we're multifaceted people, and we're like if we want to look at ourselves holistically, and we're here to help people with their health, and we're not taking care of our own health because we're all work no play kind of thing. And so you can keep it up and push it, but eventually it just catches up with you, and then it impacts your ability to treat your patients and do your job and all that kind of thing, right? So you start to like you might lose you might not be as efficient as your job as you think you are, because you're not giving yourself that balance and that rest and stuff. And even when you do, like I thought I was really good at balance before, and I still ended up burning out, right? Despite doing things for fun on the side, right? So yeah, like you miss out on your relations with people and all that kind of thing. And it just, and I think like the saddest thing is we have people, like if you don't if it keeps up like this, eventually we've got a lot of like amazing physicians, amazing people that are leaving medicine or, cutting back and not providing, all the care that they might want to try and save themselves from this kind of cost. And then, the world's missing out on them too, not just themselves missing out on them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we get it. Good. Beautiful. Milene, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we're really compromising our capacity. So our nervous system can only handle so much. And the more we push, 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 and we get rid of that white space and that, all humans have needs. And one of the basic needs is for rest and recreation and fun and enjoyment. And when you're sort of filling in all of that white space and not giving yourself any time, I think your capacity really goes down. I know feeling like you're not as in control of your emotions and not as settled. I think it just leaks into all parts of our life, not just your relationship with yourself, but with other people. And I think in the end, our health really suffers, right? When we're working so hard, our own care really diminishes, and really opening yourself up for, a bunch of different illnesses that we don't even really tie back to the fact that we're not resting, we're not getting our downtime, those things. So I think that the impact is huge. Oftentimes we think, oh, it's just us, it's just our time, I'm not affecting anybody, but it really does.
Yeah, good point. It isn't just because you can do these things in the middle of the night or early in the weekend, and it's not hurting anyone else, it's just hurting you. But you're right, it's having a bigger impact on both you and your world around you. So yeah, such a good point. Thank you. Noelle.
Yeah, I'll speak from my own experience what it costs, I guess. And I think that it's clear when we become so deeply ingrained in the habit of working so hard and we're so deplete, it turns out we don't even have the capacity to be innovative and creative in our own life. And so it just becomes so normalized that we're in this endless survival mode that we don't even see what is possible for ourselves. So the freedom, peace, and belonging that can occur outside of the container of your habitual process. I think I picture it sometimes like a periscope coming out of the water, and some teachers teach at like cognitive agility, meaning are you in the weeds all the time, or do you have the capacity to come up and look around? And I think we stay in the weeds so much. So the cost is we almost don't even allow ourselves to really feel into, think about what we're missing because we're trying so hard to get through it. And I love how you started, because you said something about, many people are okay with their day the way it is. And those aren't the people who are looking for us. And they really might be later. Like, I think when we're so deeply in survival mode, we can't even raise our hand to say, like, help. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. You said something earlier, Noelle, about celebrating ourselves. I think it was you. And I know that for many of us, we hit the day and we're feeling frustrated or rushed or guilty for leaving patients waiting. We're just having a miserable existence within our day, not all of the day, right? But for a lot of the day, we might be going through with feelings of guilt or shame that we haven't got to that inbox, or guilt that we're keeping a patient waiting, or feeling rushed, or feeling frustrated, or having entitled patients who request millions of things from us. And we feel like we may have maybe failing, if that's a word. That so we're coming at this from what is a typical experience for a clinical day if we're just getting to react to the day without that stepping back and thinking about us too within the day. You said something about celebrating ourselves, and that's a skill set that we can sometimes see developing within the physicians that we're working with. Tell us that something about that piece about whether it's talking about the frustration of the day, or how do we start to celebrate ourselves or change the narrative about our clinical day? Do you want to start, Noelle?
Yeah. So many of us have such a clear outcome goal or arrival goal. Like, I'll be happy when all my charts are done and my basket is empty. And even if it's not explicit, of course, our negativity bias is going to migrate to that part that remains. And so it doesn't come naturally to set process goals for ourselves. And so we are kind of left with, and also this sounds frivolous. So until you like really dig into why it matters, why bother, right? And so what does it cost you? And it's called identity capital, like when we're willing to pause and say what went well with our day. And if you're willing to have a bookend where you set intention and reflection. And so for instance, picking your average day and saying, I do an HPI on a third of the charts, and making that where what your minimum baseline for celebrating, like I'm gonna shoot for that rather than even having a stretch at all. And so it comes from like defining, I guess, where you're at now. There's a million ways to do it. This is what I have found to be effective, is to look at where you are now. And then it is part of the beauty of having these programs is, as much as I know the evidence, do I have it stack it with brushing my teeth every night? No, like the 3 things that went well. However, if you don't make it a practice, it's of course not going to happen. And so understanding that it actually changes outcomes, because what it does is it redefines you by what you're doing right, instead of the automatic, natural, what we all do is defining ourselves. And so it becomes like, rather than a to-do, like a to-be.
Okay, I like that. So it's got that that slice of, I know for sure I can guilt myself at any moment as a physician, or as a mom or as a human. I can tell myself why I didn't handle things well or why everything's going wrong. But just that taking a moment somewhere in your day, a mini practice of, no, it's not all wrong. What is what else is true about, and then just giving that little bit of a new narrative of, you know what, I nailed a third of my HPIs today. That is good. Or I created something good, or a good interaction today. And it can have that positive shift in your mindset. I like that. All right, who's next?
I'll go. I would say that just recognizing that that is the default, not just for you, but for everybody, the negativity bias, because I know I didn't know all this until I started coaching, is that our brains really do focus on the negative. And that you're not alone, that it's not just you. I know the harsh inner critic is something that we see a lot in physicians, really in high achieving people, and it has been very helpful for most people to get to where they are. And now it's a new season. It's really recognizing that there is a different part of you that you can sort of bring forward and have and be sort of aware. As I started to listen to that internal voice and listening to the things that internal voice was saying, so that I could curate it a little bit more, so that I was having a little bit of more positive dialogue, and just recognizing that in most people it is so negative that it's really my job to sort of try to balance that out a little bit. One of the things that Noelle alluded to, one of the things I like to do is when I'm turning off my computer, is a good time for me, because it reminds me, okay, I'm clocking out for the day, is to ask myself, what did I do well today? What was it? Was it the widower that just lost her husband that I spent an extra 5 minutes with? Was it the good diagnosis? Was it the fact that I didn't rush myself, even though I was feeling like I was in the weeds? And, it's a practice like anything else. The more you practice it, the more second nature it becomes.
Very good. I love that tying it to the turning off the computer. Such a good time, because it's a time when you're like, oh, you're like, I'm late out the door again, and all the things that you could totally spin it to the negative, and you're like, no, this is my opportunity to tell myself what I did right.
Yeah.
So good. Love that. Love that. Okay, Jackie, pearls of wisdom.
Okay. So yeah, I guess like you're talking about like the changing the narrative and this kind of a lot of these things and looking at those
Yeah.
boxes and stuff. So one thing that just helped was just to really recognize that the brain loves to be right. So Basically, if I'm thinking I stink at everything and I'm bad and I'm not doing anything, my brain's going to look for all the evidence that that's true and it can't see anything else. So, and it's hard to like shift that. So it's like finding those tiny shifts. So I mean, like the word maybe I love because just like, well, maybe I'm not stinking at everything or something, like even if it's just like a tiny shift like that. But I think even before that, and probably like the very first thing that ever made a difference, like that I learned from, coaching and stuff was just when you talked about that day where you go and you're feeling frustrated right at the get-go and you're feeling guilty and you see that, name on the chart on the schedule and your heart sinks and all that kind of stuff. Like one of the biggest thing was just like taking that second, moment, minute, whatever, to just acknowledge that you're feeling that way. And just kind of give yourself that compassion, like you would give to a colleague or something, like, hey, yeah, this sucks, hang in there, like, or you've got this, right? I see that you're feeling this way, and just that, like, hand on the door about to go into that visit where you're just like feeling crushed already before you start. Like, just take that. That's the first thing that I did the first day after I had seen a coaching doc, and that already made a huge difference. Just to be like, okay, this is just for now, not forever. Or like, okay, yeah, this is really hard, but you can do hard things, or like any of those kind of things, right? Like that, just taking that minute sometimes to just recognize and give yourself that little like, okay, here you go. Takes you down, like it took me anyways, down out of that kind of lizard brain, like I can't do this kind of thing. And then once that happens, then I can open up a little bit more to try and shift some of those thoughts a little bit and kind of think, okay, what could I do well? And with like, just one more thing about the goals kind of thing is yeah, like we tend to be perfectionist types and we want to, this is what the perfect thing should look like. I should finish at this time, all my charts done, and it has to be all this. And so it's pretty daunting to start that when you're thinking like, this is everywhere. I have to do all of this starting now, but we're humans. That's never gonna happen to start now doing everything. So just thinking about like the worst week ever when it's a full moon and you've been on call and you have all the neediest of needy patients, and the TikTok trend has been asking people for, like, everybody thinks they have all the diseases, and anyways, whatever, and you're exhausted and the kids are sick, whatever. And on the very worst week ever, like, what's the thing that you're 90% sure that you could change or do on that week, and start with that. So say, like, I like to dumb everything down. So dumb it down to what's really simple, and then that's what you start with, and then build up kind of thing. So
beautiful. Yeah, that process of change, that we can take this in teeny tiny steps and that we can do it a little bit by little bit. We do not have to tackle the whole thing at once. I love that. That's excellent. Let's talk about that day when you are running half an hour behind. It happens to us all, okay? Even us charting coaches. We have those days where we're just, for whatever reason, we have got to that point that we're not running on time today. Okay. Now you might have an experience right now in your body. It could feel rushed or frazzled or guilty. You'll have your own flavor of how you feel when this is happening. So you can probably feel that sitting on your body somewhere right now. Okay. I want to just hear from the coaches either how you handle that moment, or some pearls of wisdom, or things that your physician colleagues, clients have tried when that is happening. So it's not necessarily the strategy for how you're going to handle this next patient. It's for you. This is you. How are you going to look after yourself in that moment so that you can proceed, even though for your brain, this is a crisis moment? All right. Anyone want to pick up that burden? Anyone feeling it?
I'll pick it up.
Okay. Thanks, Milene.
I think I'll talk to Milene pre-coaching. Thought that it was only me. Again, it's like, oh, this, something must be wrong. Someone must have scheduled somebody wrong. This is too hard. This is too complex. And post-coaching, recognizing that what we're dealing with is very complex patients with a lot of uncertainty, that this is going to happen. And it happens to all physicians. And it's not a good physician, bad physician. It's just the fact of being a physician that we are going to have days where there's things that are unpredictable, that are going to run us behind. And recognizing what that internal dialogue is, when my internal dialogue would go to loom and doom and rush, and it's almost all the resistance that's there, like, this is impossible, I'm never going to get through this. And my old brain used to try to figure out what went wrong, And now I know that it's just the way life is, and just being with myself and really calming myself down like you talk to a friend. This is okay. One of my mottos in clinic is, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I always catch up. And it is true. Sometimes it's not till 5:30, it's not till the end of the day, but it leaves just a little bit of mystery there. And it also reminds me that I'm not in control. I didn't cause this. And, just to be here and just tell myself, do the best you can, and then just move on. And keep it simple. Usually when I'm running that far behind, I try to really sort of zoom out a little bit and try to keep the visit as simple as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So it's that internal calming, bit of compassion for yourself. You didn't do this intentionally. And how can I continue forward and simplify things as I go forward? Love it. Okay. Noelle, do you want to take it up next?
Yeah, if you all could see me right now, I'm totally smirking because emotional regulation is not my favorite thing. So, and when we talk about that, we are usually meaning, do you resist, react, avoid, or do you really good at processing your emotions? And I for sure am awesome at resisting, reacting, and avoiding. So, really, the day I learned that breath control is emotion control, that's about all I truly can say I practice on the regular, and it's a breath. That's it. And I will say, like, the sentences that help me are actually, they don't necessarily help anybody else, but I try to stay conscious and deliberate. And I sometimes use negative framing. So I will remind myself that I'm not going to do this to me again, meaning, because I know where it goes when I start getting amped up. Like, you started this question, I think, with how do we feel? And I felt the amp coming because I had a really hard week. And my results weren't even average for me. They were way off the chart in the undesired direction. So, and I think what is different than before is like taking that breath and reminding myself, I'm not going to do that to me, meaning you're going to stay on your game as best you can right now. And I rarely have those days where it actually just is like a complete slide, where like we at 11 a.m. and then the rest of the day we're just kind of like, what will be. Like I can stay on the course a little better, but I will say I'm riding pretty internally intense. So, and that's just for all of us to decide, like, how much do we want to work on regulating, and we have to be interested. So I try to keep it simple, like breath control, control, and it's just one or two.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. So we take a deep breath. We can't try and calm a little bit of that overexcited emotion. And we try not to let it feel like a complete disaster as you carry forward. Still having the vibration in your body. And I think that's important to recognize. You don't just suddenly become calm.
And I am okay telling myself what I feel like is the truth. So even though blaming isn't the person I want it to be, most of what we're saying when we're blaming, and I don't favor doing it on the outside. And it is one way we've all learned to offload emotion. And what we're saying is often true, like that we were overbooked or they were late, and and maybe should in there. However, I just don't tend to shame myself. I went through a period where I tried to quit. I was like, you're never going to blame. We don't blame. We don't complain. We're done with that. And it was so exhausting to just like, this is frustration to feel it. So I want that it is actually a regulating tool. I'm not advocating for it, but I also don't want to pretend that I'm different than I am what's going on in the inside. That's
No, absolutely. I think this is important to say. The emotions are still there. The getting behind still happens. And what next? What now? Right? So I think this is great because we want to see that the inside of you is not just butterflies and rainbows all the time, that there's emotion going on. And then how do we proceed with that? So that's really helpful. Thanks, Noelle. I really like that. Okay, Jackie, let's hear you.
Okay. I love this question because it used to, I'm like notoriously behind all the time, and I'm still behind lots of the time. And this week has been extra bad for being behind. But the pre-coaching version of me versus the 2.0 me, like it feels completely different. It still sucks, but it's completely different. So You both already talked about the self-compassion piece, which is always like that first thing. And there's different ways to do that. But anyways, that's one of the things, is just like letting yourself feel it first. But what's really helped is recognizing the choice, like you still have control, because you feel so out of control when that's happening. And you feel like, well, you go in and the person comes and you talk for, most of the visit about something. And then they said, okay, I also wanted to bring up this crushing chest pain, radiating down my left arm, and, and you're, already over. And now you're like, well, now I have to deal with this. And you kind of get, I was getting to the point where it was just like, I don't even, I'm not even showing my compassion for this patient, because I'm too much thinking like, I can't even do this anymore. Now I have to do this. So recognizing that it's still like my choice to stay in there and spend that extra time, and I actually want to, because I don't have to stay in and deal with the chest pain, but I don't really like the consequences of not staying and dealing with the chest pain. So I don't have to do any of this stuff. I don't have to wear clothes when I leave the house, but I don't, I like the consequences. I don't like the consequences of not doing so. So kind of looking at things that way, that it's me who's choosing to stay in that room longer with the patient, because I could say no and send them away or whatever. So that part helps. Thinking about too that, so like when I do run behind, or I go on this one visit and I take a longer time, I come out and it's like, well, yeah, I took longer because I meant to. And I have patients that will say sometimes, oh, sorry, I took your time. It's like, hey, my time's on me. I chose to be in here longer. Don't worry about it, kind of thing, which feels totally different. So that, like, before it would have been like this rushed, like, failure, guilt, like panic. Now everything's the whole day is gonna spiral down, and the next patient's gonna be worse. And now, all that kind of stuff. And then I feel guilty for the next patient waiting, so I'd give them more time, and it just snowballed into this huge craziness. So the other part is coming out and being like, okay, that's done, and now this is a new visit, and this is a visit that's booked for 15 minutes, and I'm gonna start again fresh on this visit. This is my 15-minute visit, kind of thing, rather than thinking, well, now it's all gone to hell, and here we go, kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I could talk for 3 hours on that, but
that's okay. That's good.
good.
Yeah. I ran behind a couple of times this week, and they were, the social, usually for me, it's a social dilemma that needs to be teased out, assess risk, decide what's going to happen, figure out the resource to set this person up with. And I'm choosing to spend that extra time because I need to gather the things I need to gather to assess for safety. So I'm running behind. And I mentioned to husband today, I was running behind in the middle of my morning. He's like, well, you know how to catch up. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That his hearing me talk about my clinical day for years and years, and how, the whole transition of change and the whole coaching, and now helping physicians and thousands of hours of coaching others. He's like, you know how to catch up. And I'm like, yeah, that's in essence what I did to navigate the next 4. Like, after I've had these 3 in a row of side balls, curveballs thrown at you, and then you're doing something different. I've now got 4 people in front of me, and I'm like, I know how to do this. My brain just has taught myself this sentence of, I know how to do this. I can figure this out. I will proceed with the next person. Like Milene said, I'll keep it simple where I can. I'll keep choosing what I will do in the consultations. I don't have to take on that and get overwhelmed by it. I can learn where to focus, even when I'm feeling on the inside a little bit more emotional turmoil than I would normally have in a day. And I'm like, and he just says to me, oh, you can handle that. I'm like, that's such, yeah. So interesting for him to have just said that back to me. I'm like, wow, okay, I can handle that. I can catch up. I'm like, well, I kind of did. I was, because the girls in the team, I'm like, how did you get here so quickly? You were 4 behind. I'm like, they're done. It's like, no big deal. It's that we have the physical and human experience. The emotion comes up. You can feel that old patterns of brain saying, oh no, you're behind. It's all gone to, your slippery slope. This is a terrible day. That all comes up still, but it doesn't have to overwhelm you. You can have that ability to learn those skills of, now what? Just stepping back and saying, now what? What are we going to do with this? We're 4 patients behind. We're, so many minutes behind. Now what? What are we doing? And that ability to, so you can see 4 different approaches.
Yeah.
And everybody's having a different experience of clinical medicine. And that's what I wanted to bring you here today, is that brain's trust of, we're all human. We're all still in practice. We're all having a different experience of clinical medicine, but the actual nuts and bolts of things might still happen to us. Like, the running behind, like the patients who give you a curveball at the end of the consultation that doesn't just go away. Okay. Before we end, I wanted to ask you each if there's something that you wanted to leave as a message for our listeners. So something that would be an encouragement, so a pearl of wisdom, something you're seeing frequently that you'd like to talk about. So anything that would be a message for the listeners who are really in that either early stages or contemplating, how do I make this sustainable for me? How do I make medicine something that I could maybe enjoy more or do differently when I feel trapped or stuck in where I am? So anybody ready? Anyone want to take over that question?
I can go. I mean, this is pretty simple, but like you're not alone. Like I think just that part, like you feel so alone. And then I think a lot of times, even with the coaching calls, people don't want to lift their hands up because they don't want to, you don't want to show that vulnerability and show that like people are embarrassed about like, this is my backlog number. This is how many charts I've done, or I haven't done this, or like you hear so many times like, okay, this is really bad, but this is what I've done. And it's like, it's not bad. It just is like, and you're not alone. And when you come on and anyone who's comes and coaches, there's always someone commenting like, oh, me too, same thing, right? Like, so, and I think it's so helpful to just for us to talk about it and be open about it and show that vulnerability because yeah, like if you think everybody's got their poop together because we're in this, social media shows everybody's all good and happy and everything's okay, then, you feel like completely alone. So I think it's just so important to talk about it and share it and just know you're not alone. And like, you're going to keep messing up stuff because we're human. We're going to keep doing that. And we all do that, even if we preach this stuff all day long, go home and do the same thing, so it's just important. I don't know, just that. Yeah.
Yeah, get connected with someone, talk about it, get some advice, get some perspective, get some validation of what you're going through. So important. Thanks, Jackie. Perfect. Milene, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to let them in on a little secret, and that's that medicine's broken. And it's not you, it's medicine. It's the system was devised by someone who wasn't a physician, who didn't know what it takes to get all of this done, and that we're trying to fit into the system and really recognizing everything that we're up against. It's the patient's expectations, the insurance companies, our own expectations, our office expectations, and it's just recognizing that medicine is broken, and that as you sit down and speak with other physicians, you realize that you aren't alone, and that just acknowledging that and doing your best, that just like your husband saw you so beautifully and clearly, knowing that, hey, you know how to catch up. Do you know how to do this job? And and our patients see us clearly. They see how hard you're working. And then just to remind them of that medicine is really broken. It's not us. And just do your best and sort of forget the rest.
I love that. Love that. Thank you. Noelle.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any secrets. I think if we can really see the gravity of the math problem that has developed in medicine, we can all see there's a math problem. There's really only so much efficiency that we can create without having some kind of collateral damage elsewhere in our life. And so while we're changing the system, I think it's really this idea of honoring your awesomeness right now. When you like look at your partners, your friends, Sarah, how much has been required to get to where we are, and not just doing, but like the being again, the values that you have carried to get here. And you might be in a season now where you want to execute differently on your values. But the idea of wanting and honoring what you have, like your own awesomeness, so that you have space to honor what you don't yet have, this just isn't frivolous to give some attention and love to what you've created already. So wanting what you have such that you can want what you don't yet have. It sounds weird and it really matters. It really is just a gratitude practice, but that idea of going all the way back to when this was a dream, where you are now. And you're in the middle of a math problem that we're all figuring out together. But I just think we keep skipping that part for when this was your dream. And if we can just savor little bits of it. And sometimes it requires doing that with someone else to actually take the time to do it. So I just want to honor anybody listening. We know how hard, if we pause, like how hard we've worked to do the right thing. And we might just be choosing to execute a little differently on those same values in this season.
There we go. Love that. Thank you. Yes, acknowledging that we're up against a big ask. We're up against always asking to do more and give of more of ourselves, and then making choices within that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Brains Trust. Jackie, yes.
Sorry, I just want to say one more thing about that. But it was
Yeah.
at one of the conferences, that PIPE conference, they presented that study that showed to do all your primary care, it would take 27 hours a day kind of thing. Anyways, but the
Yes.
conclusion at the end, and I just love this line, and I keep this in my head all the time, is that we're doing an impossible job impossibly well. So I just really liked that phrase. Find it helpful.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
good.
beautiful.
But I didn't make it up.
No, but thanks for passing it along. I think that's really valuable. And don't sacrifice all of you, to do this impossible task, because you're important. You are important, and you are worth the figuring it out, worth figuring out, how can I make this sustainable for me? So thank you, Brains Trust. You can meet these beautiful ladies, these amazing assistant coaches within the program. So I encourage you, if you're interested in learning from them directly, come on in. We'd love to have you. And thank you so much for being here. Wonderful, wonderful Brains Trust. I value you, and so do all of the people listening. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day and week, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, if you found this podcast episode helpful, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. Every time you do, you help a colleague or friend find our podcast, and it can help them too. Don't forget to share it along with your friends. If you're looking for extra help, don't forget we have charting champions for physicians and smarter charting for nurse practitioners and other clinicians to help you get home with your work done. We are helping you create sustainable clinical medicine. Thanks for listening. Hey, if you found this podcast episode helpful, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. Every time you do, you help a colleague or friend find our podcast, and it can help them too. Don't forget to share it along with your friends. If you're looking for extra help, don't forget we have charting champions for physicians and smarter charting for nurse practitioners and other clinicians to help you get home with your work done. We are helping you create sustainable clinical medicine. Thanks for listening.